Guys, it's Jeremy here at Metal Music Meltdown, back with another video. What we have for today, guys, is another ranking of the albums. This time we're going to tackle the Mighty Rainbow. Really cool group. They formed back in 1975, founded by lead guitarist Richie Blackmore, probably my favorite metal guitarist of all time. As a person, he's kind of a douche, can be kind of difficult to work with, but as a guitar player, there's no denying his abilities and quality of playing. So he formed the band, like I said, back in 1975, and he had lead vocalist, of course, Ronnie James Dio, the legend, who came from Elf before that. And yeah, just a really good band. Full disclosure, just they've had 8 albums in total, and I don't really dislike any of them. I definitely like others way more than some of the others in general, but overall, really solid discography, really good albums. So let's jump right in, guys. At number 8, I went with their last album, Stranger in Us All. Hard rock album, nothing really wrong with it. Just the one I kind of go back to the least. This was the only album that had Doogie White on vocals. And honestly, he's probably my least favorite vocalist that they've had in the band. They've had 4 total in the band over their discography. But this is just the one I go back to the least. And just, that's it. Nothing really wrong with it. Good straight up hard rock album. Great guitar works. The vocals are good, but just want to go back to the least. At number 7, I went with Bent Out of Shape. And this is the last one that had Joe Lynn Turner on vocals. Again, from the Joe Lynn Turner era, I think personally this is just the weakest album. It's got some good tracks on here. Stranded is really good. Street of Dreams is really good. Fire Dance is a really good album. But again, out of the Joe Lynn Turner era, I think it's the weakest album that he was on, and the one I go back to the least, so that's why it's near the bottom of the list. At number 6, Difficult to Cure. This is their 5th studio album. This one has Joe Lynn Turner on vocals as well. I believe this was the debut, the first album that had Joe Lynn Turner on vocals. And this is where they try to kind of start changing their sound to be more commercial. Blackmore wanted to get away from the previous sound with Ronnie and do a more commercialized kind of rock sound to get more airplay and try to essentially just sell a ton of records. He wanted to be the next Foreigner, like that kind of radio rock friendly music. It kind of worked to a degree. Difficult to Cure got a little bit more radio play, but I prefer the earlier sound better, and it didn't overly work in his favor because he didn't really get the commercial success he was hoping for. But Difficult to Cure is a decent album. Like I said, they're just kind of changing their sound. New vocalist, fresh in the band, and just not quite as strong as some of the other material. At number 5, I have Down to Earth, which was the 4th studio album. Last album to have Cozy Powell on drums. Really, really strong drummer. And pretty cool artwork on this one. I like the album artwork on this one's pretty cool. But in terms of vocalists, it's the only album that have Graham Bonnet on vocals. Graham Bonnet's pretty good, but coming off an album with Ronnie James Dio, it's big shoes to fill. I give Graham Bonnet credit. He sounds really good on this album. I really do think this album is very underrated in the discography. A lot of people kind of shit on it sometimes and don't like it as much. But I think it's pretty solid. All Night Long, Eyes of the World, Since You've Been Gone covered is just No Time to Lose. Some good tunes on this one. I think I said Graham Bonnet sounds pretty good. Guitar work is solid. It's a one and done with the lead vocalist, but pretty solid album. At number 4, I went with their debut. Initially, I thought this was going to be higher, but when I kind of looked at the other albums, the other 3 I just kind of listened to overall more. But killer debut album, of course, with Ronnie James Dio on vocals, and then you had Richie Blackmore on guitars, of course. But just a really solid opening album with songs like Man in the Silver Mountains, a masterpiece. Self-Portrait, Catch the Rainbow, Snake Charmer. Just the Temple of the King. Just some really, really good songs. yeah, just a banging debut album, really solid stuff, and kind of where they made their mark, and it was a really good release. Number three, I went with the second album, well, the sixth studio album, but the second album that had Joel and Turner on vocals. In my opinion, by far the best album that had Joel and Turner on vocals. It's Straight Between the Eyes. Really good album, really good hard rock, really banging songs. I know hard rockers on this one. When I kind of compared this to the debut, when I really looked at it, I think I've been going back to this album more than the debut lately, even though I love Ronnie. This album is just really good. Like, it's really good songs. Stone Cold is amazing. Death Alley Driver, Tight Squeeze, Power. Just some really good tunes on this album. Just hard rocking, solid top to bottom, no skippable songs, no filler. Really good stuff. Like I said, easily the best album with Joel and Turner on vocals, in my opinion. And yeah, had to be up higher in the list. My number one and two were always my number one and two. I knew those weren't going to change. At number two, I have Long Live Rock and Roll. It's their third studio album, the last one that had Ronnie on vocals. And it's just a masterpiece of an album, near perfect album, with songs like the title track, Lady of the Lake, LA Connection, Gates of Babylon, for God's sake. Like, there's a massive song. Kill the King, The Shed. Like, come on, guys. This album just loaded with classic hits, and easily number two. And number one had to be Rainbow Rising. Like, let's be real good here, guys. It's literally my favorite metal album of all time. And perfect track listing, only 6 songs, but Tarot Woman, One with the Wolf, Starstruck, Do You Close Your Eyes, Stargazer, and Light in the Black. Stargazer is my favorite metal song of all time. I listen to it, without a lie, pretty much daily for the last like 5 or 10 years. I never get sick of it. It's 8.5 minutes of pure bliss. It just builds and builds and builds and builds, and it gets more epic and epic. Probably the best vocal performance Ronnie's ever done, in my opinion. And also probably the album that had the best metal lineup or hard rock lineup of all time, in my opinion, as well. Ronnie James Dio on vocals, Blackmore on guitars, Jimmy Bain on bass, and Cozy Powell on drums. Doesn't really get much better than that, guys, and it's a masterpiece of an album. Top to bottom, a perfect album, 10 out of 10. And not just my favorite Rainbow album, but my favorite metal album of all time. So thank you for watching, guys. Let me know down below what band I should tackle next, and keep it metal.